this video I want to discuss the use of ChatGPT in conjunction with the microbit. Now the microbit itself, although it is quite a simplistic microcontroller in comparison to some of the other units such as a Raspberry Pi or Arduino, this itself still can be quite complex to get to grips with coding for. Now what I've found in the recent months is that ChatGPT can provide an extremely beneficial support for both students and educators at, I suppose, either end of the spectrum, either very proficient at using a microcontroller or even at the beginning stages. So what we'll do is we'll just jump over to my PC and we'll discuss how you can write code using ChatGPT. Okay, so now that we've moved over to our web browser, what we can do is open up two separate tabs. One for ChatGPT, where you'll need to log in using your Google account. And we can also open up another tab, which is the microbit code editor, as you can see here. Now, in the code editor itself, what we're going to be using is going to be using the blocks as well as the JavaScript. If for some reason this is in Python, I suggest that you move it over to JavaScript. Now, if we move back to the ChatGPT, we can start off by asking it a fairly basic, I suppose, bit of code to write for us. So to start off, I think it'd be nice and easy for this to reproduce a box, code that will generate a box on the 5x5 matrix. So what I've done here is I've put in write a JavaScript code for the microbit to generate a box using the onboard 5x5 matrix. Now, there's still a bit of vagueness in this, what I mean by that and what I mean by a box. But again, ChatGPT is going to try to decipher this and try to best answer this question to what it thinks I'm asking. Now, it might think what I think is a box might be, all of the lights in the 5x5 matrix. It might just be the outer perimeter. It might be a small box of maybe 4 lights in one of the corners, so on and so on. But again, if you don't specify, it's going to try its best to identify what you want. Now, if it produces something that you don't want, you can ask it to change it or to do something else, or if you want it slightly to edit it, you can ask it to do that. So now let's start off by just asking it to do this. Now, it might take a second, but as you can see here, it tells you that it can do it. It opens up this small bit of a black box, which basically is your code itself. The first thing you should take note of is at the very top left of this black box, it indicates what language it's writing in. We want JavaScript, so if it doesn't say JavaScript here, for instance, if it says another language such as Python, you're going to have to ask it to change it to JavaScript. As well as that, there's a bit of text below here which explains exactly what's going on in this bit of code that it's after writing. Now, ChatGPT is not always right. Sometimes it can make mistakes. So what we can do is we can go to copy our code in the top right hand corner. We can bring it over to our Microsoft code editor, make sure we're in JavaScript and copy it in. Now very quickly we'll actually find out if this is going to work or not. Because if the first, I suppose, indicator that it won't work is that a problem would identify itself here, it would say problem, and it would say number of problems with the code we've written. But it doesn't seem to be a problem yet. So then what we can do is we can press play here on our bit of a simulator, and we'll see if it displays a box. Okay, so perfect. We can see that it'll work. It'll actually display a box. What ChatGPT thought we wanted was a box around the outer perimeter of the microbit. Again, if you want that box to appear somewhere else, so using different LEDs in this matrix, you could specify that, and ChatGPT will change the code to suit. Now, what's great about this as well is you can actually click on blocks and you can see what this looks like in, let's say, its block format. Now, is this the easiest way to create this code? Let's say if you were to write it yourself or to do it yourself in block. Absolutely not. What I'd say is that you could actually just have your on start block, you go to your basics, you show LEDs, and then you could click on all the LEDs you want to make your box. However, this is the way that ChatGPT decided would be the best way to represent it. But if you wanted it to simplify this code, you could also ask it to do that. Okay, so now I'm just going to show you up on screen what this looks like when it is downloaded to the microbit itself. Okay, so let's try something a small bit more complicated for ChatGPT. So let's try something that's moving on the 5 by 5 matrix. So let's see if we can get it to generate a wave. I got this to work earlier on, but every time I put it in, I seem to get different code for it, as well as a different representation of what it thinks I mean. So you'll see here, we're actually asking it to write JavaScript code again for the microbit to generate a wave using the onboard 5 by 5 matrix. Now, it all depends really on what it thinks the wave we want is. So it is a 5 by 5 matrix, so it's a very small resolution and that we have to deal with. So its wave could be a row of lines starting to light up from the top to bottom or bottom to top, as if you're looking on top of, let's say, down on a beach, and as the waves are crashing in on the beach itself. It might have this, but from the top right hand corner to the bottom left hand corner, or vice versa. Or it could also, let's say, have a singular dot which is moving up and down in, let's say, the pattern of a sine wave. It's all really what it thinks we want, and it's going to represent that as best as possible for us. Now, we can ask it to change it up after it's done it for us, or if it's made an error, so that it suits better to the application we want it for. Now, I have put in this additional line which says the wave will start on the top left of the 5 by 5 metric and finish on the opposite end. So we'll see what it does with that. So we'll send that in. Shouldn't take long. It's going to tell us can or can't do it. Generates a nice small bit of code, as you can see here. It is JavaScript, which is what we want. It tells us about what the code does and how it works. And what we can do is just copy our code, bring it across to our Microsoft Microbit code editor, delete the old code that's on there, and we'll copy this across. Straight off the bat, I don't see any problems appearing, which would appear below here. And we'll see what happens when I try to use the emulator. Okay, so we can see this is a wave that is generating that's starting at the top and moving line by line down along. I could ask it to change that if I wanted to by going back and saying change the pattern. It might change it differently, or you could specify what you want the pattern to look like. But I'll just show you what this looks like on the microbit itself. Okay, so let's try one last one, which is going to be a small bit more complex than the last two. This time we're going to get it to turn the microbit into something useful. So let's say, for instance, we are working at a ticket stall and we want to count the number of people attending, let's say, a particular event. Now, usually you could do that by having this clicker, which you click down on it and it would roll on from the next number every time you clicked it. However, let's say we want to count how many males and females we have. So we'll assign males to, let's say, a button A and females to button B, and we want to count that. So let's say we're going to use our microbit to do that. So write JavaScript code for the microbit, generate a button counter that counts how many times you press the button A and B. Now you'll notice we didn't say A or B because that will count, each time you press A or B instead of A and B, so it's separate. Now we'll see what it comes up with. Again, if it makes a mistake, what we can do is we can come back, talk to it, see if we can alter it to work the way we want it to work. Okay, let's just copy this. Delete our old code here, like so, and we can paste this in. No problems, which is brilliant. So nothing for us to deal with. And let's see what happens in our emulator. So let's press A. Okay, perfect. It's counting 1. Press A again. It's counting 2. Again, 3. Let's take it 2 times this time. 5. Perfect. Now, what I wanted to do when I pressed B is I wanted to start again because remember it's counting how many A and B. So let's say A. Fantastic. So it's 1. Click this. It should be 2. Click it again. It should be 3. Now, if we go back to A, it shouldn't continue on from 3. It should continue on from the 5, which is perfect, which is our 6, 7, 8. Then if we go back to our B, it will continue on here like so. So you can see that this is quite handy. It shows you what it has done in the blocks as well. So if you want to troubleshoot or add on to this or make some edits afterwards, that you can do. Or you can actually just go back and talk to ChatGPT to help you figure out what you want it to do. Now, you can see this also working on the microbit itself, which I'll just put up the screen. But it's important to note that this can be an extremely useful tool to both help you as the educator or help you as the student, I suppose, interact with the microbit itself and expand yourself beyond the confines of how well you can write code or generate these blocks. Again, it's an assistive tool. If you use it correctly, it can benefit you. Will it always get things right? Absolutely not. But you can use it definitely to benefit you in your teaching and in your learning.